As the sun rises over Salem on Monday, December 1st, it feels as though the town is trying to settle itself after a storm, unaware that another wave of emotional turbulence is about to sweep through. This episode begins with a quiet tension, the kind that slowly builds until it pulls every character into its gravity. At the heart of that tension is Sarah Horton, who walks into Maggie Kyriakis' presence carrying a truth that weighs heavily on her. Her face gives everything away long before she speaks, the unease, the hurt, and the disbelief of knowing how close she came to losing her life. Maggie, who has weathered more storms than most, instantly senses that her daughter is carrying something painful, something she can barely speak out loud without trembling. When Sarah finally begins to share what happened, her voice carries a softness mixed with shock. She tells Maggie about the pistachio incident, how she felt her throat closing, how she felt the fear creep into her chest before losing control. But what makes Maggie's breath hitch is not the memory of the allergic reaction itself. It is the moment Sarah reveals that Rachel Black intentionally triggered it. She doesn't dramatize it, doesn't exaggerate. She speaks calmly, almost too calmly, but the horror is still there in the details. Sarah explains that the little girl knew about her allergy. She knew the danger. And she did it anyway. Maggie's heart breaks at this revelation, not just for Sarah's near-death experience, but for the child who seems to be slipping further into emotional chaos. The grandmother in Maggie wants to cradle Rachel, protect her, help her. The mother in Maggie wants to rail against the thought of someone harming her daughter. The conflict inside her is almost too big to hold, and the scene leaves her standing at a crossroads of fear, compassion, and helplessness. Even as this emotional conversation unfolds, the rest of Salem is wrapped in Thanksgiving traditions, making the contrast even sharper. While some families gather in warmth, others feel the coldness of distance and loneliness. Gwen Rizek spots Xander Kyriakis in one of these lonely corners, sitting alone with an expression that shows just how disconnected he has become. Holidays are difficult enough for someone carrying guilt and loss, but Xander's isolation seems to cut even deeper. Gwen watches him for a moment, the slight droop in his shoulders, the way he tries to pretend he's fine when he is not, the way he keeps swallowing his emotions as if trying to force them back inside. Something in her softens. Despite everything between them, the mistakes, the heartbreak, the complicated history, she finds herself unable to leave him alone. She approaches him, not with pity, but with a gentle understanding that surprises even her. Xander looks up, startled at first, but then his face relaxes when he realizes she isn't here to scold or judge him. Their conversation folds into something quiet and comforting, something that makes the room feel warmer. For a moment, it's as if all the pain between them is suspended, allowing space for something kind, something vulnerable. As they decide to spend Thanksgiving together, there is an undeniable spark glimmering beneath the surface. The winter preview showing them hitting the sheets flashes through the viewer's mind like a whisper of what might be coming. It suddenly feels possible that their shared loneliness could push them back into familiar, dangerous, passionate territory, whether they're ready for it or not. Across Salem, another Thanksgiving gathering begins to take shape. Abe Carver and Paulina Price open their home with their usual sense of warmth, and Johnny and Chanel join them, creating a comforting picture of family unity. Food is prepared, the table is set, and laughter fills the air. But just when it seems the holiday might be peaceful, something interrupts their plans. There is a delay, something that pulls their attention away from the meal and clouds the cheerful atmosphere. Fans immediately wonder if the interruption is connected to baby Trey, the child who has already become a magnet for tension, secrets, and danger. The quiet anxiety that spreads among them reflects the fragile balance of their world. No one says it out loud, but everyone senses that this delay could be the beginning of another problem, another twist that will test them as a family. Meanwhile, the looming darkness that has been haunting the DiMera family begins to thicken. Chad is missing, and the silence around his disappearance is becoming too loud to ignore. EJ DiMera feels the weight of responsibility settling onto his shoulders, heavier than ever. It is not just about Chad anymore. DiMeras have been disappearing one by one, vanishing like shadows swallowed by night. The audience knows they are being held in the family crypt, but EJ and the others remain completely in the dark. The dread inside him grows, pushing him to take action. Theo Carver joins him, standing firmly by his side, ready to help unravel the mystery. The decision to join forces marks the beginning of a determined search, one driven by fear, loyalty, and the desperate hope that they are not too late. As EJ and Theo discuss their next steps, a quiet urgency pulses between them. There is no room for hesitation now. They understand that the enemy is close, hidden, and dangerous. They also understand that the DiMera family has a long history of enemies who would love to strike when the family is vulnerable. The partnership between EJ and Theo becomes a rare moment of unity within the chaos, two men unwilling to surrender to fear, ready to dig into the truth even if it leads them into darkness. By the time Monday's episode draws to a close,